guys, this is Courtney back from Little's Bloom, and I am here to talk about the Taurus Lunar Eclipse that's happening on October 28th. So, before we get started, I wanted to mention that I am offering 2024 forecasts, which I will have linked down below. So if you're interested in that, I will basically break down what the energies are for you each month and kind of give you a storyline. So it's not as, transit based. I'm basing off of transits, but I'm making it more palatable, I should say. Okay, so let's talk about this eclipse, which is happening on Saturday the 28th, and it's happening at 5 degrees of Taurus. It's a full moon, which means that the sun is opposite this moon at 5 degrees of Scorpio. This moon, fortunately, is loosely conjunct Jupiter, which is going to help a little bit facilitate the experience of this moon and make it a little bit more palatable. Did I already say palatable? I don't know why I'm repeating that word if I am. So a full moon in general is about having this kind of culmination period, having things become visible, having things become seen and clear and known. And a full moon can bring endings to things, especially eclipse energies, which tend to unfold over 6 months, but they can have a very chaotic type of energy that does often bring things to a close. And I do think, given that both of these moons have been ruled by Venus, there are very significant things happening with people in our lives and relationships. I do think some relationships could be having the chapter closed on them. Some significant realizations and things can come to light around our relationships and also around our own sense of self-worth, which is a very Taurus and Venus topic. Taurus in particular has a lot to do with value, and that can be what we value as people, monetary value, what if we see ourselves as valuable, what we prioritize in our lives. That is kind of the main focus of Taurus. And when it's in its lower vibration, it can be extremely concerned with the material world. And that's not to say that we don't want that concern, because I think that we need that and that's what Taurus needs. But the higher vibration is connecting that more to our sense of purpose and, I guess, having a reason for why we're doing things beyond just survival, which is the lower base of the Taurus energy. And what I think this eclipse is doing, especially because Jupiter is here, is it's connecting us with our spiritual self, the higher meaning of why we're doing things. And Taurus in particular, like I mentioned, has so much to do with the material world. And if there have been things that we've been doing in our material world that have not been sustainable, that are not nourishing, are not healthy, are not rooted in our sense of self, then those things are really going to start coming to the surface to be analyzed. Also, the way that we go about doing things, because Taurus likes to do things in a way that's consistent, stable, and thinking long term. And they like to make sure that they don't try to take on too much at once. They really slow things down and relish in the experience of what they're doing when they're operating from a healthy perspective. If they're too slow, then that's the negative of Taurus, right? Where they're maybe not moving and there's the laziness there. So again, thinking about the higher and lower vibration of the sign can show you what is trying to come back into balance through the energy of Jupiter. And Jupiter is about that wisdom. It's about growth. It's about our spiritual or religious practices that, again, give life perspective and give life meaning. And so if we have been doing things in our life in a way that goes into the negative of the Taurus energy, or if we have been pursuing things that are not actually in our highest good, that are not actually healthy, Jupiter will draw our attention to that. And we are in Scorpio season, the sun's in Scorpio, so the sun also makes us very aware of the shadows. Scorpio is very good at self-analysis. It's a sign closely linked with psychology. So we're becoming a lot more aware, and Jupiter is helping us look for the greater purpose and meaning in what we're doing and how we're doing it. So I'm going to give you guys some examples of energies that we are kind of facing. If we have been wasting time, if we have been making mistakes, if we have been reckless, or if we have been pursuing things without a strong foundation or without looking at the facts and the details of something. Because again, Taurus is related to the material world. So there is a need to look at the reality of things. And there's a need to respect the time and the process that things take. So if those things have been happening, we can be addressing them. If we have had imprudence or meaningless jobs, or we've jumped around from one thing to the next, or we have very short-term projects, if we've had a lack of concentration, if our work has felt tedious and purposeless, if we have cut corners or had shoddy work, if we are misaligned in the type of work that we're doing, if we're not using our gifts, or if we're feeling really weighed down by issues of the material world like bills or not having enough in some respect in your life, those things will also be addressed. So anything that, again, is rooted in very kind of survival instinct and is not embracing our higher consciousness. I think all the behaviors that we have done to make up for these things and distract us are going to also be addressed. So this could be like going out for drinks and spending money shopping and feeling like you're just going to be totally present and not consider your responsibilities or the future. Those things are going to collapse because it's like a house made of cards. We can't just expect ourselves to be healthy and happy and fulfilled if we are living for short-term gratification and short-term fulfillment. And this is, again, what this eclipse is teaching us. What do we need for long-term fulfillment? What do we need for things to be sustainable? What do we need for things to be slow and to relish the process of the unfolding rather than rush to the destination? These are all important questions, and important questions as well in our relationships. So if there have been imbalances in our relationships, injustices in our relationships, if the foundation is not strong, that will become really, really clear. And because this eclipse is taking place with a few other aspects, for example, Mercury and Mars together in Scorpio, this is a very combative type of energy. This is a very direct energy. Like, I'm going to call it like it is. I'm going to tell people how I feel, and I'm going to address this head on. So if there are these things happening to you in your life, if there have been injustices, if people have been cruel to you, if you haven't had your needs met in a relationship, or if you haven't gotten paid enough in your workplace, I can really see people stepping up and addressing those things right now. Because again, we are looking at sustainability of things, the foundations of things, the practicality of things, the nourishment of things in our life. And if there's something amiss there, we are having to address it. Not just from a higher mind with Jupiter, where we see what's possible and what could be, and so we are inspired by that vision to make changes. But there's also a very protective, guarded part of ourselves that wants to stick up for ourselves and say, this isn't right. I can't do this anymore. I have to stop this. I have to end this cycle. I have to ask for what I want. I have to assert myself into this situation and not just sit by passively. So it feels very active. And of course, the North Node is in Aries, which is next to this moon. And that ultimately is the goal of the North Node in Aries. It's to become more of an agent in our life, to make decisions and make changes and not just let things happen to us, not just become complacent with things that are clearly not working, but it's okay because we don't want to change them. These are fixed sign energies, Taurus and Scorpio, and that means they're harder to change. But when we have this big eclipse energy burst through there, it kind of creates a little bit of crisis or stimulation to finally get the momentum going in a different direction. Because Taurus is quite stubborn. It can have momentum, but sometimes it's for the wrong thing, and it can be dedicated and committed to the wrong thing that isn't really sustainable. And this could be like a truth serum in some ways. With Mercury and Mars together in Scorpio, we're already very psychologically aware, being that these signs are in Scorpio. And then together, we're having this kind of like penetrative mind where we're investigating, we're discovering, we're researching, we're, again, standing up for ourselves. We're not just receiving information. We are putting ourselves out there to learn more and to do things about what we're learning. And so we're, again, going beyond immediate gratification, going beyond the present moment, going beyond survival into what it would look like to thrive, what it would look like to make these really big changes and ask for the things that we need. And that might mean that there is some disillusion of things, because Mars, which is next to Mercury and is the ruler of the North Node, is about endings. It's about cutting things away. And full moons can also be about that. So if there are endings in your work or endings in a relationship or in a friendship or something of that nature, that's kind of normal in a cycle like this, because you're really realizing that the foundation wasn't going to get you to the next few years. And maybe there's just an adjustment for many of us. But for some, it's just not going to carry you forward. And we are coming into a phase of pursuing more adventure, more growth, and more peace ultimately. So asking yourself how your current behavior needs to change in order to make that possible for you is the key here. If there have been an excess of Taurus qualities where we become self-indulgent, vain, superficial, where we are not coming into moderation or learning how to budget or balance our meals or balance our time with different types of people or different responsibilities, if we have gone into excess in other ways, I think that we are going to become very clear around how we have lacked limits and how there needs to be a little bit more of a boundary in our life with either ourselves or with other people. And just like a side note, sometimes because Taurus also has to do with, Taurus and Jupiter can have to do with cysts and like the thyroid. So if that is an issue that you guys already have, you might find that those things are magnified with an eclipse like this. So we are trying to break through the complacency and the superficiality of a time like this. And the way that this happens is by things becoming disturbed, things becoming uncomfortable, to where we can no longer, again, just live and not address the things that are coming up within ourselves. So really kind of seeing our blind spots and taking ownership and responsibility is key here. And Taurus is an extremely autonomous sign. It wants to be self-sufficient. So these are things that truly we have most of the responsibility over. Even if they're involving relationships, we decide how relationships unfold through our behavior and our decisions. So a lot of this is about taking that responsibility on our shoulders and saying, this is what I need and this is what I'm going to do to fix this. Another interesting aspect of this full moon is that the moon is making an almost exact trine to the asteroid Juno. And Juno has a lot to do with marriage and devotion, but it also shows us where we seek that balance and that fairness. So this is part of what I like about this eclipse, is that I feel like if many of us are starting to stand up for ourselves with this trine to Juno, I feel like we're going to have some type of good scenario occur, or at least a resolution of that problem. So if we decide to stick up for ourselves, we will find some sort of peace as a result of putting ourselves out there in that way and asserting ourselves. So I really like that, because I feel like just Mercury and Mars alone can indicate maybe a conflict. But with this trine to Juno, I really feel like that can help balance out some of this energy and get us our desired result. So how can we create balance in a holistic, healthy, and beneficial way for all and people involved? And that might mean that some people get karma that's due. That doesn't mean that everyone has this like easy time. Fairness is fairness depending on people's behavior and past actions. So any level of, again, ignoring things it's not going to work right now. And that's the thing with like Moon and Taurus individuals, is that sometimes there can be a little bit of that energy where they're not always like dealing with things head on necessarily, or they can be very slow to act. And this is stimulating that and saying, no, we have to act now. And this is, again, taking place over the next 6 months. So it doesn't have to be like right now per se. But because Jupiter is with this moon, I think, again, we're going to be up leveling in some type of way. So it's not like we're just having to address conflict for that end, but it's really so that we can have a new lease on life, to have greater potential, greater depth, greater happiness and healthiness, and things that are not just based off of superficial pleasures and distractions. So one of the things that I'm seeing here as well is that we're going to have to be really aware of our timing and impulsiveness, because as I mentioned, Mercury and Mars are together. They're quite close to the sun. These planets are also opposite Jupiter, which is on the moon. So one of the things I see often with clients when Mars is opposite Jupiter is there can be this exuberance that really excites people. They are like, yes, I'm ready to go. I want to do this thing, like da-da-da. And they don't necessarily consider the timing of things, or there's just, it can be a little bit like we're just seeing only the good that can happen, and we jump straight into things as a result of that, rose-colored glasses that we're wearing, and we don't actually understand that maybe this takes longer than we want, or maybe we need to consider other factors at play before making certain decisions. So there is a little bit of this element of wanting to move really fast. And because this is an eclipse in Taurus, that's a very slow energy. So I feel like this can maybe potentially help balance each other out, but just become aware of that kind of aware of your speed. Are you going too slow on some things and then too fast on other things? Or are you doing this kind of start stop? Can you modulate yourself? So feeling inspired, but not getting too ahead of yourself because of that inspiration, versus also not becoming too disheartened and slow because of all of the practical things in the way. So it's how can we try to achieve some sort of balance of these energies, seeing the possibility while also recognizing the amount of work things take, and marrying those two together so that we have this consistency. And that, I think, will be the hardest part about this eclipse, is that finding that pacing with things, finding that moderation with things, especially concerning timing. I pulled the Hawk card, so I feel like many of us are just becoming a lot more aware of long-term realities. So if I keep pursuing things in the way that I'm doing, or keep going after this particular relationship or person or goal, is that really going to get me to where I want to go? Where is this headed? Where is my trajectory? Seeing that big picture helps you then adjust based off of that trajectory. And I think then we can go faster. We can kind of go full speed ahead with this Chariot card once we kind of know the adjustments that we need to make. One of the other elements of this eclipse is that it's ruled by Venus, because again, this is a Taurus full moon. Venus is the ruler. Venus is in Virgo and is conjunct Black Moon Lilith. So with Black Moon Lilith, sometimes we can have things come to the surface that are quite shadowy, especially in our dynamics with other people or within our relationship with ourselves. We start to see parts of ourselves that may have felt either neglected, or we have been scared to look at them, or we haven't wanted to face certain things. But to me, this is us facing the shadows that have been underneath why we've been doing things in the way that we've been doing them, or pursuing the things that we've been pursuing. So if there's something wrong with that element of our life, like if we've been in the wrong relationship, or if been focusing on the superficial rather than what's meaningful to us, then Black Moon Lilith with Venus will help us see all of our shadows and all of our full self underneath those things that we're pursuing, so that we can come into more self-awareness and self-acceptance and being honest about what's actually happening. For example, if you come home every day and just scroll on your phone for an hour, maybe what you're really needing, or maybe what's really happening there is that you feel lonely, and there's this shadow part of the self that maybe wants validation and seeks external approval or whatever it is. And you start to fully see that and own that. It makes it a lot easier for that not to be on autopilot, for you to bring consciousness to the equation and actually have some element of agency and choice over the decision, because you are finally seeing the full spectrum and you're not refusing to acknowledge the shadows that are underneath any given circumstance. So this is a time of honesty, of reflection, of substance, of fulfillment, of making these important decisions and changes to our behavior so that we can create really long-lasting, supportive results for ourselves. And this does, for many of us, have a lot to do with money, because Taurus is a very financially concerned sign, and survival and stability and relationships in general. So those are the areas of life that are typically most affected, but really wherever you have this eclipse, so wherever you have Taurus in your chart, is what's going to be hit the hardest. So we're going to go over what that's going to look like for each of the rising and the sun signs. So make sure you check that out. And again, if you're interested in a 2024 forecast, I will have those linked down below. And I hope you guys have a good one. Bye. All right, so up first we have Aries rising. This Taurus eclipse is happening in your second house, again with Jupiter. So you guys are coming into a cycle in regards to your own sense of self-worth and finances that is going to help you create a solid foundation for your future, rather than maybe spend money in a willy-nilly way or make money through means that are not actually fulfilling for you. And what I see for you guys is coming more into alignment with yourself, with this High Priestess and the King of Wands, where you guys are learning how to trust more of your intuition and your inner guidance about how to make leadership decisions over your life. So that could look like you maybe deciding that you want to start saving for a house, or you want to make some changes to your business or your work, or even make changes to your physical appearance or your finances, or something that feels like it's going to change the way that you kind of perceive yourself and your own sense of worthiness and stability in this life. So this area is trying to become enhanced with Jupiter here, is trying to help you see what is possible, to think outside of the box, and again, have these kind of intuitive downloads about what can happen. With the sun opposite this moon in your 8th house, and with Mercury and Mars there is insecurities still driving you a little bit. And this could actually come out in your relationships or in your relationship with money and debt, for example. But there's something here where insecurity is definitely playing a role in what you feel like is possible for you, what you are working on, how you might sometimes hold yourself back or limit yourself or not take the necessary action to move things forward. And I feel like it's some kind of cycle happening within relationships for many of you that could at times be the thing that is degrading your confidence, with the sun being in the 8th house of shared resources and intimacy, and a very strong place for connection of partners. Because Mercury and Mars are with the sun here in the 8th house. And these are planets that have us a little bit riled up, especially in the 8th. They're a little bit more triggered. And so there might be things that you feel like are being tested in terms of the foundation of something. With the Knight of Pentacles and the Knight of Cups in reverse, there's this energy of something that you have been consistent with or dedicated to. And this could be a job, or this could be a partnership, or anything really. Something that you've been working hard on and really like showing up for and putting all yourself into might still feel like it has weaknesses to it with this Knight of Cups in reverse. This Knight of Cups in reverse can be a little bit fearful. It can be unrealistic. It can be jealous. It can be moody. It can see things that are not there and interpret things in a negative way. And really what I feel like is happening here is a number of things. So it could be that you are in a relationship and you are worried about the foundation of the relationship and you're putting so much effort in, but there's something concerning you within the relationship that feels unstable. Or there could be something within yourself where you feel like, oh, I'm not good enough at this. And you start to kind of like make this whole storyline in your head about why you're not good enough, or your fears around something. Or you could feel like, you've been working hard on something and you feel discouraged because this is your time to succeed and you're not there yet. And you're having these unrealistic expectations of how long things should take. And that is leading to insecurity. But there's something here around your perspective of a person or a situation that is kind of distorting things in some way. And I'm not saying that it's coming out of nowhere. But this perspective can kind of hurt you, in a sense, where it's like having that belief is almost, it's like it does you a disservice in some kind of way. So let me pull, actually, before I go on about this, let me pull a shadow card. You guys also have Venus and Black Moon Lilith together in the 6th house. So there is definitely something here around not feeling good enough or not feeling like you're getting your due. So it's like, I'm always putting this effort, I'm always doing this. And it's like, and I don't feel like I'm measuring up, or I don't feel like I'm getting the money I deserve, or my partner's overlooking me, or I'm trying all this and I still don't feel confident, or I still don't feel like I'm making enough, or I still don't feel like, I'm in shape enough, or whatever it is. There's something about you that I'm like, I'm putting effort, but I'm not getting the necessary return. And I do kind of feel like this has to do with a partnership because of the Fox and the Sea Serpent card. It feels like it's a cycle that you might have in relationships with people. And this doesn't have to be a romantic partnership. This can be people that you work with. This can be a best friend. This could be a family member, where you feel like you get into these cycles, like something repeating itself, that is like, okay, I thought I dealt with this. Like, I thought I've already dealt with people who don't recognize my worth and I have to feel like I prove myself to them. And then like, how am I here again? Or whatever the cycle is. It doesn't have to be that per se, but there's something that feels familiar and cyclical about this. And like, it's definitely not your first time here. And I think that's part of the reason why you're having this kind of like overactive imagination, or seeing a little bit of things that aren't there, or reading into things too much, or being overly sensitive about something, because I think it's actually triggered from the past, and it's more so something related to your past than it is about your current reality. And I think this eclipse is trying to help you overcome that and become a little bit more strong and solid in your sense of self, so that the past and like things that kind of trigger the past, like for example, if you've been cheated on and like you see your partner talking to somebody else, it could start all this up within you, and it's like maybe there's actually nothing to worry about, and it's more so your own sense of self-worth that was wounded at that period of time in the past, that is going to be put to an end at this cycle. And something that I didn't mention at the start of this video with the eclipse being at 5 degrees of Taurus is, in Sabian symbols, 5 degrees of Taurus means to cut or let go of your ties from the past and to relieve grief and sorrow. So if there are emotions that are still prevalent from old experiences, there might be a need to kind of process them so that you can feel more stable. Okay, I drew a shadow card, like what you're not seeing, and it says chickenery. If you've drawn the sigil, the extremely positive attitude or behavior you are showing towards something suggests you feel lack or fear you lack a trait you deeply desire. When you fear you lack something, instead of becoming aware that you feel that lack within yourself, and instead of overcompensating in other areas, you overdo it in that area of deficiency. For example, you may be socially anxious, but you overcompensate by acting overly socially confident. Or if a person fears that deep down they are prejudiced and therefore lack perceived goodness of character, they will often go to extreme lengths to prove their generosity and positive attitude. This is interesting because with Mars in the 8th opposite Jupiter in the 2nd, there's a little bit of this like overdoing energy or being overly optimistic about something. And this, I think, kind of explains that, where there might be something in your life where you actually feel like you lack. And so you're kind of overcompensating in some area, maybe to not have to address it within yourself. Okay. If you've drawn the sigil, you are terrified about something you fear that you lack. As a result, you're overcompensating to try to cover over the truth that you either fear that you lack something or actually do lack that thing. Are you fooling anyone? Are you fooling yourself? What are you afraid that you lack? And what would be so bad about lacking that thing for you personally? It's time to face that, and instead of proving that it doesn't exist. Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So I hope that resonates for you. I would love to hear for you down below if it does. And I hope that you guys have an absolutely beautiful day. If you want a 2024 forecast, be sure to check that down in the description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus, rising, and sun. For you guys, this eclipse is happening in your first house. And this is a time of deep personal growth for you guys, with Jupiter also being conjunct this moon. This eclipse in particular is calling you towards greater trust in your path and trust in the universe that you are going to be supported to pursue the things that you want and to take a leap and a chance and go on an adventure with yourself. I do feel like you've been holding yourself back because of the fear of the unknown. And this is really a time where you're going to have to face some of those fears. With this eclipse in particular, we have the sun in Scorpio in the 7th house with Mercury and Mars there. So I do feel like part of your trepidation around moving into the unknown has to actually do with other people. It might be that you are in a relationship. It might be that you have a kid. It might be that you are attached to the friends that you have in a specific area. There's something where you guys are needing to move beyond, maybe even travel and go abroad, because Jupiter is very much concerned with that, or even studying a new subject, growing in some capacity as a person. But there are concerns about shaking things up. And there might even be people in your life that don't want you to go, that don't think, that they tell you that's not a good idea. Like, you can get the same results if you stay here. But given the way that the transits are, you are not supposed to stay in your same spot. You're not supposed to stay in the same kind of environment. And that person, while they might care about you, probably doesn't actually have your best interests at heart when they tell you that they'd want you to stay behind or not move forward on something. So I think it's really important at this eclipse to look at things in your relationships with others very clearly. And it doesn't really have to do with them necessarily. Like, if they are saying, I don't want you to go, or I don't want this to happen, it's not up to them. So I don't know how much of this needs to be addressed, although Mercury and Mars together in the 7th house might indicate that there does feel like a need for a conversation about things and addressing things in that way. But I feel like at the same time, this is your opportunity. This is your decision to make. And for most people, they're not going to need another person's approval. So I do feel like there's a need to release some of the attachment to the past, release some attachment to the familiar, and take some kind of leap forward. Even though you might feel like you're adventurous, I feel like there's something that you are still trepidatious about or have not fully invested into or gone over the ledge. And this eclipse is going to push you over that ledge. So I see with these Empress and the Judgment in reverse that it's time for you to answer the calling. You've been ignoring your inner calling. You've been ignoring something that's trying to tell you, get out there, do that thing. Because the Empress card is upright, it's saying that you can trust what is happening. Like, you can trust that guidance, that feeling, that when you also take the leap, that you're going to be totally caught and held, and that it's all going to go well. And with this Phoenix rising from the ashes, I do feel like you guys are having to probably transform a lot of aspects of yourself right now, especially within the context of relationships, in order for this to happen. So that could mean that some relationships end. That could mean that you address things in a different way in your relationships, or that you have to figure out how the relationship can survive you growing and changing in this way. But ultimately, it's needing you to go through that kind of death and rebirth process in your connections so that you can find your wings, so that you can soar. Otherwise, you're just going to be walking around on land and you're not going to get very far. And Venus, the ruler of this eclipse, is with Black Moon Lilith in your 5th house. So there's definitely something that you're becoming aware of when it comes to your immediate pleasures and things around joy that could have been satisfying to you, but distracting to you as well. And I feel like you're going to become aware of how that might actually limit your expansion by, drinking or socializing or having sex and doing the things that feel really fun, but aren't actually getting you towards a new identity that has a lot more wisdom and has a lot more experiences. It's kind of just like doing the things that are easy. And that's not really what is being called from you right now. I also pulled this Page of Swords in the Chariot. So I do feel like once you decide that you're going to take action on things, you're probably going to move really, really quickly. So this could be having an idea or a conversation. And then once you resolve that, or once you have that thing come to you and that clarity, you're moving super fast and you're having this willpower and this dedication to whatever that is to see it through. I guess the only thing I would say with Mars in the 7th opposite Jupiter in the 1st is to just be really mindful of taking things too fast or not having the necessary conversations with people or not kind of fully considering the context of things, especially in your relationships when it comes to making these growth decisions. So if you are needing to like change or end a relationship, not doing anything impulsively, like really feeling that you're taking things slowly. You are, even though once the decision is made and once it's all cleared up, I feel like you're going to move really fast. But I think that there's something here that's trying to tell you, just hold back a little bit of your energy and just use a lot of your wisdom rather than your optimism about how things should go, especially when it comes to dealing with somebody else or how things will impact somebody else. So yes. Okay. That's what I'm seeing. There could be something around contracts here as well, because 7th house can do with contracts, but this is a time of growth. So consider the thing that will ultimately have you kind of leaving your familiar ground, and that will be the best decision for you. So I hope this resonates. If it does, please comment down below. Give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want a 2024 forecast, I will link that in the description box and you can purchase that and we can have a one-on-one call about your year ahead, month by month. And I will see you guys later. Bye. All right, up next we have Gemini, rising and sun. This Taurus eclipse is happening in your 12th house, conjunct Jupiter. You guys are going through some deep spiritual healing at this time. And one of the interesting things about this period of time is that I feel like you guys are going through some healing around relationships and conflicts. With the 4 of Wands in reverse and the 7 of Pentacles in reverse, I feel like you guys are kind of exhausted at being at odds with people, at having conflict or feeling like things are not as harmonious as they could be. And this doesn't have to necessarily be relationships, but there is some type of internal conflict or anxiety or something that feels like there is resistance to what is or to what it's becoming or to transitions that this eclipse is trying to help you with. The 12th house is a house of transitions, of loosening our ties on our previous identity so that we can be reborn into a new one. And that might mean that there are certain relationships that undergo changes and fluctuations, and you might also have other elements of your life that are undergoing those fluctuations. And there can be sometimes this tensing, this resistance to those fluctuations. And ultimately, I think this eclipse with Jupiter here is trying to help bring greater wisdom and compassion and sensitivity and healing to these circumstances so you can metabolize what's happening. If there are difficulties in them, if there are hard emotions in them, being able to process that and take the good out of the situation instead of kind of getting stuck or instead of feeling completely exasperated. And I feel like there's a lot of kind of remothering happening here. If you have children, there could be something going on with your children, or if your mother is still alive, for example, there could be stuff going on with your mother that is actually being healed as a result of this eclipse, releasing some of these patterns and things that you've been going through in your life that could actually be related to your home and your family, because the ruler of this eclipse, Venus, is with Black Moon Lilith in the 4th house of home and family. So there's something here where the mother theme was really strong because I pulled the Deer card, which talks about the mother, and then I pulled the Seven of Pentacles, which has a pregnant woman on it. So there's something in connection with our mother, our ancestry, our roots, our own children that is going through a cycle of healing at this point in time. And it can feel hard. It can feel like we're confronted with things because Venus is with Black Moon Lilith. We can see the shadows. We can see the things that are uncomfortable. But ultimately, it helps us, again, kind of die and be reborn as a new person. We feel lighter. We feel more loving. We feel more understanding, more gentle, more compassionate because we've decided to release some of our baggage. And if there have been conflicts in relationships or in other areas of your life, they could be rooted in some of these earlier patterns with your own ancestry, your own mother, or with your children in general. Okay, there is another message going on here because the sun is opposite the moon. So the sun's in the 6th house and Mercury and Mars are together in the 6th house. So there's something here around probably being very busy. And with Mercury and Mars also opposite Jupiter, there is definitely a potential to take on a lot. So I think one of the things that I want to say for you guys is that you are building yourself up in a lot of ways. I think you guys are probably doing a lot at work, or you're taking on a lot of responsibilities and you're trying to get your finances in order. There seems like a very practical energy that's happening to you while there's also this healing spiritual energy. So this practical energy kind of has, again, with this octopus card and this 2 of Pentacles, this is really giving me the sense that you guys are juggling a lot of different things. So this Taurus energy, it can help you create some kind of stability or routine or something to ground into in regards to this this level of busyness. Let me actually pull an advice card for that because I'm wondering if you need to simplify or if all those things are important and you just need to have like a steady way of going about it. Okay, I pulled the gratitude card. 36. So it says, there's a reason to be thankful and help is on the way to balance energies. Okay, balance. That's the answer. We're needing to balance. I think that means not necessarily throwing stuff away. Pink roses will show you that ways to happiness are opening for you and there will be a reason to be joyful. Something of value is in focus at present. This could be an exchange or a gift, a windfall, or the sale of a large item, or simply discussion around it. Be careful that you don't interfere where you're not welcome and be wary of legal deception. Okay. I hate the last sentences. They're so random. Okay, so I feel like you guys, again, you're getting some kind of financial reward with the Queen of Pentacles here. And I think just, the sun being opposite Jupiter and the sun being in the 6th house, it's like, okay, I'm finally getting some things coming back to me that I've built up karma around, good karma around. And it's coming full circle. And I feel like you're having a lot on your plate and you're needing to balance it. You're needing to juggle it. And I feel like part of the way to do that is to have gratitude for everything in your life, to value these things and to make sure that each thing has the proper time and energy put towards it. And if you can't, then maybe some things they do need to be paused or cut away so that you can have the proper capacity for all these things. The last message I'll say is I pulled this card around our shadows. And one of the things that I feel like is a message for you guys that might be more related to relationships, but I'm just going to say it in general. There's something in regards to seeing the signs that are around you. With this eclipse being in the 12th house, you are much more intuitive and things can come to you through dreams and through a psychic sense. So if you feel like something is meaningful and significant, it is. Do not ignore those feelings or those dreams or those signs. This card is trying to tell you that you might have been overlooking something or questioning and doubting your intuition around a sign, and this is your time to trust it. And if you see a deer, that could also be a sign of something. So maybe look up a little bit more about the deer spirit animal. But if you see a deer or a peacock or an octopus, depending on where you live, that might also be very significant for you. So that is my message for you, Gemini. I really do wish you the best of luck with this one. And actually, I want to pull one more card around this balancing of these energies here. So any advice again about this? Okay. We have the 2 of Swords. Whoa, that's way too many cards. Two of Swords also feels like we're kind of needing to decide something. We're juggling between things and we don't really know about where to put the energy and focus. That is like really coming up strong. And I feel like I want advice for you guys on how to actually balance these things. And it might be because I'm a Gemini and I'm also feeling a little overwhelmed. Let me just pull one more card about advice on how to go about balancing our life. Page of Cups, High Priestess. Okay, all of this is just really saying to like follow your intuition, your creativity. I do feel like with Taurus energy, there is something quite solid in this where it can be helpful to have a structure, routine. But ultimately with these very air and cup and like mysterious cards coming out, this is so much more than just a schedule. I feel like you are going to have to feel into things that, and ask yourself, like, is this something I really, really value? And how much time should I put towards this based off of how important this is to me? And if it's not important, if it's not something you really value, then maybe it's something that you don't do, or you have to save it for the time where it feels more intuitively like you're called or creatively called to pursue or to work on that thing. So anyway, I hope that this message helps you. Please message or comment down below if it does. If you want a 2024 forecast, I will link that in the description box down below. I go through month by month and tell you your energies and what you're going to experience. And I hope that you guys have a beautiful week. Bye. All right, up next we have Cancer, Rising, and Sun. This eclipse is happening in your 11th house in Taurus, and it's conjunct Jupiter. So one of the messages that's coming through really strongly for you guys is that you're having some big shifts in your mindset, and I think that's partially because the ruler of this eclipse, Venus, it's the planet that rules the sign of Taurus, is in your 3rd house of ideas, communication, and general mindset. So one of the reasons I say that is because I pulled some cards and the only ones that came out in reverse were 2 sword cards, which have to do with our thoughts and our mind. So there's something here around needing to shift your mindset and to become maybe a little bit more self-aware of your thoughts and to sometimes maybe even question your thoughts, maybe more than you are doing now. There could also be ways in which in which your thoughts are being used against you, in which they become quite shadowy and also repetitive or difficult. They could numb you or nullify some things where you're like getting energy and you're getting excitement, and then your thoughts come in and just like kill it. And I'm seeing that this overly critical part of the self needs to be addressed. With this fish card, I feel like you guys are very much in like a mode of reactivity and maybe being quite busy, maybe trying to follow the crowds, go with the flow of things. Like there's not a lot of agency and consciousness in your decision making right now. I feel like you're looking at YouTube and you're like, oh, look at this person was an entrepreneur and they did this and they made this much money. And then you want to do that. And then the next day you see somebody else doing something different. And this doesn't have to be with career necessarily, but it's just in general, there's this a little bit too much of this feeling of like getting swept up in the crowd and going with the flow of what other people say or what your anxiety tells you. And it's like, you're not saying, like, you're not coming back to a centered place and saying, this is what I want. This is where I'm going. This is who I am. It's more being led and manipulated by the environment and thoughts and the things that are really transient, and it can feel disorienting. And this moon being in the 11th house is trying to get you to focus on longevity. The 11th house, this says longevity, literally. The 11th house has to do with hopes, wishes, dreams. It also has to do with our community. So you could be highly influenced by your community, and you need to maybe be aware of the people that you are hanging out with or the media that you are consuming that is pointing you in specific directions, and decide from an internal place, a deep core value of what you want to pursue or what you want to invest your time and energy into. And then find people and media that align with that rather than the other way around. And this is super important because you're not going to have the longevity, the sustainability, and the happiness with things that are short term, with things that are based off of other people's desires and goals. It needs to come from a core intrinsic place for this to be something sustainable, nourishing, long term, and to actually last the test of time. And that's what this eclipse is wanting you to do. It wants you to have that bigger perspective, that connection to your intuitive and higher self, and to really ground into that specific vision rather than having it fluctuate based off of the time and the people and the media you're consuming and yada, yada, yada. So that is the general consensus here. I have the Two of Wands also, which is a card around planning, and then the Queen of Swords, and then the Death card. So there's something here where I feel like you guys might need to kill off some of your plans that you have right now that are not actually like aligned with who you are. The Queen of Swords in reverse, I think, can be, again, really easily influenced, and it's like made plans based off of other people. So you need to either kill those things off or transform them and align them in a way with your innate nature. So it's like, okay, maybe I don't want to have just any old business. It has to be this kind of business because of the way I am. Or maybe I'm, want to be a hairdresser, but I don't want to be like any other hairdresser. I want to be like, I want these particular schedules and this, I want to work on this particular client because that's what I'm interested in. And makes sense for you. So do that. And then I think you'll notice that you can move quite quickly once you get to that phase where you are much more aligned with yourself. So you're like, yes, I can make decisions a lot faster. I know what brings me joy. And there doesn't have to be this complication as much around what you're doing. I think before you were using that same speed, but you were then changing directions and you were kind of impulsive and you're going this way and then you're that way and then you're burning out and you're feeling restless. So that level of speed can be maintained, but focused, and you can get so much further. Whereas if you choose the wrong thing, that speed is going to kind of have you ricochet like a pinball, and you're not going to actually land anywhere or sustain anything valuable. And so that's why this is super, super important. The sun is in the 5th house, which is, again, very concentrated on short-term pleasures and desires. With Mercury and Mars here, you're going to have laser focus and decide on what you're going to cut off so that you are not distracted and influenced by short-term gratification. With Mars opposite Jupiter, recognizing also that things take time and planning things out for the long term is super important. So you need to slow things down, and you'll actually notice that speeds things up. So I know that sounds super ironic, but I think once you take the pedal off the gas, you'll notice things a lot clearer about what needs to be done so that you don't have to go back and redo them, or so that you don't have to make all these pivots and changes and turns, because you are really soaking up the process and being present with things so that you can move much faster towards your destination and not have to recover or return. So that is what I'm seeing for you. I hope this resonates. Please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you want a 2024 forecast, I will link that down in the description box below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo rising and sun. This eclipse is happening in your 10th house of career, and I am definitely seeing a lot going on with that. So let's talk about it. So an eclipse in your 10th house with Jupiter is trying to help you expand into new horizons within your work. That means that we're going to have to look at what it is that we do on a day-to-day basis and ask ourselves if that's really fulfilling, if it's really grounded and like actually practical and going to get us to where we want to go in life. So for example, if you're at a job right now and maybe you enjoy it, but you're not getting paid any money, how can you adjust things for that to actually be sustainable for you? Because maybe you have a goal of buying a house one day and you're never going to get there based off of your current income. Or maybe you're not happy at your work and you're realizing that something's got to give, that there are certain goals in your life that you want to achieve, and the way that you're pursuing them right now is not sustainable or not right for you. And this is trying to get you to think beyond your current perspective and put yourself out there in some kind of bigger way. And this could be any kind of life goal that really doesn't have to just deal with career. Anything that feels like it's moving your life forward into these big next chapters, like getting married, buying a house, having kids. These are all really important staples in life that have to deal with 10th house topics. So are you on that path? Are you making decisions that align with that path? Or are you limiting yourself or being overly focused on staying inside of your comfort zone? And that will prevent you from getting what you actually want. One of the messages that came through, I pulled shadow cards for most of the groups, and one of them that came through for you was that you are having some kind of narcissistic perspective. And that's an intense word, but let me explain what it means. So having a narcissistic perspective simply means that you are not putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and creating real intimacy with something. So with someone. So there's something where I feel like you guys are stuck in your version of life and your version of reality. You are in your bubble and you're not seeing beyond that. And I think that's affecting you in many ways. I think it's affecting your relationships. Maybe you are kind of refusing to see how certain aspects of, you know, your goals or your life or your perspective could actually be affecting other people, and they could have a totally different version of truth and reality. So that's one. And then another one is that you might not see beyond the current bubble that you set up for yourself, because you're like, this is reality, and then you're accepting that reality as your fate rather than seeing that, popping it and seeing that there are actually millions of possibilities of things out there that could be different. And so I feel like there's limitation and bumping up against a boundary within your own mind that is happening, that is preventing you from true intimacy and really feeling other people, as well as feeling into the possibilities that lie outside of your awareness and your current version of reality. So this is super important. And I think that's very true. This could also represent issues with a boss, a parent, or an authority figure, or even the government, where you have your own version of truth and then they have theirs. And again, you're not fully seeing their reality. And I see that a lot with this Seven of Cups and the Emperor card. This is a card of confusion, of things being very nebulous, of feeling like you see all these possibilities, but nothing is really like clear and landing. So this card where I was saying that you might need to see more possibilities, I don't see this as the same thing. I see this energy as more of like an imagination, and you are imagining things being one way when maybe somebody else is imagining them as another way. And again, with this Emperor card, there's something here around like authority figures that this could have to deal with, or people in your life that have a very strong like root and impact on your life in a very significant way. And there's something in that relationship where I feel like you're just like not seeing it clearly, or it could be around your own inner authority that you're not seeing clearly. Maybe you don't see how you have the power to create this level of change in your life, and you're not seeing truly the responsibility and possibilities that lie there. It's like your imagination is working, but it's not, but it's working within the confines of like a snow globe, and you're needing to burst beyond that and actually like take action on things and see that there is more beyond those limited possibilities that you initially expected. So there's basically two different kind of scenarios going on there, and maybe they're both relevant for you. With the sun in the fourth house, again, there's usually an energy of like being in our comfort zone, wanting to be at home, wanting to kind of like focus on ourselves and spend time alone. And so with Mercury and Mars here and opposite Jupiter in the 10th, we need to be honest with ourselves and the people that we're dealing with, and we need to stand up for ourselves and have these clear and direct communications while also being empathetic and seeing other people's perspectives. So instead of just holding up away and like hiding yourself, maybe you need to have a conversation, be open, talk about things, and defend yourself, but also have like truly empathize and listen to the other person's perspective. That is super important here. And to not be overly optimistic about the outcome of that, or rush into that, or be impulsive around that, but be intentional, be conscious, be aware, and go into it with, you know, certain goals and desires as an outcome. If this is a conversation you're needing to have with somebody, and if not, it could simply have to deal with you needing to put yourself out there a little bit more, and having to maybe deal with and confront some internal things that are happening that could prevent you from doing that. I definitely feel like I'm seeing a very anxious lack mentality though, with the Rabbit and the Five of Pentacles. That might be part of what you're needing to confront in order to feel like you can put yourself out there, or you can go for more, or you can empathize. It's like you first need to feel safe, and you first need to feel like you're not just in lack or having to survive. You know what I mean? There's like a very strong survival instinct that I feel like is kicking in here for you, that's actually preventing you from true intimacy and connection and seeing the other person, or like seeing other potentials and possibilities, because of this survival instinct is so revved up because you don't feel safe. And so that might need to be something you address. With the Chariot card, this is usually about speed. But what I'm seeing here is I feel like there might be something more so related to, well, first of all, your level of activity. If you're doing too much stuff, that could kind of trigger that part of you that needs to feel grounded and stable. You might be too busy that you're not actually taking the time to reflect and sit with yourself. The Chariot card could also represent the willpower. So once you do sit with yourself and you see where you're feeling your survival instinct become triggered, you have to do the work and have some sense of self-control to rein that part of you in. And this is what the Chariot is. It's a lot about us having a very strong control and maintenance over ourself, our desires, our emotions, our direction. So it's like, again, there's a lot of consciousness and intentionality in this scenario. So if you are operating from that kind of reactive or protective or lack security, survival-based mindset, have like really giving yourself that spaciousness and the time and the discipline to work through some of those things that are triggering it, to work through practices and exercises that help you get out of that mindset, to reframe yourself, so that you can actually move through life with a lot more ease and growth and intentionality. So that will help you achieve certain goals, help you have greater intimacy, and I think get you all the things that you desire. So that is what I'm saying for you, Leo. If that resonates, please let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you want a 2024 forecast, I will link that in the description box down below. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo rising and sun. For you, this Taurus eclipse is happening in your 9th house, conjunct Jupiter. And the message that's coming through for you guys so strongly with this is to have belief in yourself and self-love. Because I feel like one of the things that's coming through really strongly, and this is the first message with this card, is not seeing your own goodness, not seeing how worthy you are, how excellent you are at something, how good of a person you are. There's something where you are not actually seeing yourself clearly. And it's interesting because this card is about seeing one's true self. So there's something here with this eclipse in the 9th house where you are becoming a lot more spiritually in tune with your vision of yourself, because the 9th house is where we receive messages and higher guidance and wisdom from God. And this is being used to transform your perspective on who you are, your identity, your, again, sense of worthiness. Venus is in your sign right now with Black Moon Lilith, and there can be a lot of comparison that happens. This is in your 1st house, so you might be really feeling like, well, this person's skinnier, and this person has more money, and this person has better hair, and this person is more well-traveled and more well-read. Like, there's always going to be those comparisons to have, but you're using it to cut yourself down so much that you feel like you're not there yet, that you're not ready, that you can't advance, that you don't deserve certain things. And this is just not true. And with Jupiter, with this moon, it's trying to create a sustainable vision of your future by having you see that you haven't been seeing the possibilities or jumping into things and embracing things and going on the adventure because you as a person don't feel like you're good enough. You don't feel like you're ready. You don't feel like you are there, and you need to fix something to get there. And that is the problem with this, is it's not about fixing something. It's about softening and accepting and loving yourself. And that is the true message of this eclipse. I pulled the 10 of Cups, and it feels like you guys can have this ultimate fulfillment. You can have what you desire. And I think many of you are feeling like that's not going to happen for you. Many of you feeling like you don't deserve it, you're not good enough, and that you're never going to have this 10 of Cups fulfillment because of who you are as a person. But that's not true. With Jupiter on this moon, it's saying absolutely you can have those things. But you need to first really become aware of the things that you have emotionally used against yourself and come into a state of a lot more self-love and acceptance. Working on your relationship with yourself is what is going to get you there. And I think part of the ways that you might self-sabotage is to become highly distractible. And I can see this with the sun and Mercury and Mars all together in the 3rd house, opposite Jupiter in the 9th. You might take on way too many things. You might become really restless and unfocused. You might have way, way too much on your plate and see things from this, again, very skewed, biased perspective and thinking that I'm never doing good enough and being hard on yourself. So you're taking on too much. You're spreading yourself too thin. You're looking at yourself through a negative lens. How are you ever going to feel like you're getting anywhere? You're just going to spin your wheels. So you need to focus. You need to focus your attention on what matters. You need to bring in unbiased facts about the situation and about yourself. What have you actually accomplished? What are you good at because other people maybe have told you you're good at it, or because you have data that shows that you have achieved something, that you have a certain amount of knowledge, that you have a certain amount of talent, that you, whatever. So it's like using these things to show yourself, I have made progress. I am doing good. I can continue going, and I'm going to remain focused on this thing ahead of me. So again, using data from either other people, from your past circumstances, from things that you have achieved, to show yourself that you are better than you think that you are. And I think that's super, super important, because you're getting stuck in such a closed-minded concept of the self that it's hurting you. And it's not going to help you move forward in your life. And I think that's part of why you're so scattered, is because that's a little bit of a Virgo self-sabotaging. Like, I'm going to overanalyze things. I'm going to be self-critical. I'm going to feel like I'm never doing enough. And one way to do that is by trying to do too much, and feeling like we fail at it. So how can we have maybe smaller, more focused, one step goals at a time, instead of, needing to feel like we have to eat the whole elephant at once? So I really feel like you guys are coming into your inner resource with this Queen of Cups and the Strength card. You're coming into a state of being much more emotionally stable, and finding this strength within yourself to keep going despite the odds. And there are always going to be odds. It's not to say that this is going to be a hard time or anything, but this is saying that you're going to have things come in your life that move you, and you're going to have to remain stable like a tree and say, this is who I am. This is what I feel intuitively to do. I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to feel emotionally stable regardless of how maybe other people are treating me. And I'm not going to just bend and move with each circumstance. You're not letting everyone's opinions or what somebody said or that thing that happened that one time during the day that threw you off. You're not going to let that affect your sense of self. You're going to love yourself and have compassion for yourself and be emotionally stable regardless of these fluctuating circumstances and things that are happening to you. And that is the key here. I kind of want to pull one more card. I do see with this purification card that there might be a need to release some things in your life. And that could be mindsets, that could be habits, that could be people, that could be goals, things that are just honestly toxic. That could even be foods. There could be things in your life that are quite literally toxic. So let me pull just one more advice card for you guys, because that felt short and sweet and to the point. And I think just giving yourself, divination, yes. Giving yourself the potential to succeed by having a plan, but also listening to your intuition about that plan. That's 9th house axis with Jupiter opposite Mars here. We can take on too much. We can be like, all right, these are all the things I want to accomplish. But then we're not tuning in with ourselves about what feels right, what to do that day, what the timing should be, and we can set ourselves up for failure. So this divination card is saying, let's listen to ourselves about what it is that we want to do, how we want to do it, the timing, when we want to work on each thing, and go with the flow of that without overburdening ourselves by being critical about that flow. Because there's something here where things need to move naturally. Things need to move with the energy of the universe. And if you are setting too high of expectations on yourself, you can criticize yourself about that flow when it's outside of your control, really. It's supposed to be moving that way. It's like if we got angry at the earth for having seasons, like, oh, I can't believe you're in winter right now. You're not busy enough. You're not producing enough fruit. It's like, it's kind of crazy. So there's going to be seasons and flows of energy in our life on a daily basis. And we can see that with transits, and we need to honor and respect that while having some kind of plan. Yeah, we need to be focused and grounded, but there is going to be those fluctuations, and having the spaciousness and the kindness to ourselves through those fluctuations is super important. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Virgo. My stomach just growled, so maybe you guys need to go eat a meal. Don't forget to take care of yourself, love yourself, and I hope that you guys enjoy this. Please comment down below, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends. If you want a 2024, I keep saying 2022, forecast, I'm going through month by month and having live calls with people. So if you're interested in that, I will link that in my description down below, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, it makes you have Libra rising and sun. This Taurus eclipse is happening for you in your 8th house, conjunct Jupiter. And I really feel like this is a time for you guys to come into greater self-mastery. And I say that because I pulled the Lion card, which has a lot to do with spiritual growth, self-mastery, and being very conscious of your decisions and your words and your way of going about things and living in integrity, because the lion is like the king of the jungle, I guess. So there is a way that people look up to the lion. There's a way that people defer to them and listen to their judgment and take what they have to say seriously and into consideration. And I feel this kind of self-importance here, and not in a bad way, but in a way where you're aware of how you impact and influence other people. And with this moon being in the 8th house, I think it's having you become aware of things that may kind of, the shadows of the self that may get in the way of you being this highest example for people, or you being the best possible version of yourself that shows up to relationships, that shows up to your work, that shows up to your kids, whatever. Wherever you have some sphere of influence, is trying to put emphasis on that. The South Node is in your sign right now. So there's a lot of like self-awareness coming through for you this next year, a lot of personal transformation, and needing to confront old habits and things that might actually be kind of holding you back and maybe having you stuck in certain patterns that will not propel you to that level of this lion. So it's like, what are some of those things that you keep doing over and over again that limit you, that are maybe fear-based things? And it could just be having a thought. It could be a really bad habit. It could be the way that you approach your work or your relationships. There could be something there where there could be an enhancement where you're, again, living more according to your integrity and to your values and to what is important to you as a person, rather than from either fear or darker desires, or for things that are unconsciously driven. And I say that because Venus, the ruler of this eclipse, is in your 12th house with Black Moon Lilith. And this is an extremely unconscious energy where we might, again, be driven by certain pleasures or relationship things that it ends us up in a result that feels out of alignment in the end. And I'm really feeling like this is something very persistent that's been going on for a long time, because I pulled the Knight of Pentacles and the Devil card. I'm getting two messages from this. Either this is something that comes through in your work and you actually feel like you limit yourself in your capacity to achieve certain things because of the fact that you sit down and you do a lot of work every day and you're consistent, but then something shows up where you can't break past a certain point. It's like you're getting stuck in the middle of something. So you're showing up and you're doing the same thing, but you won't do that next level devil kind of thing where it's like, okay, I have to take this leap. I have to take this chance. I have to expand in this way. And you might have to confront your fears around that expansion. And this moon is conjunct Jupiter. So it's very much about taking things to the next level and confronting the things that confine us. And if it's not that, there's something that might be even more basic that is confining you, that you are showing up to very regularly. And I'm seeing this like very stubborn energy around it. So it could be a belief, a habit, a behavior, an emotion, just some kind of thing that you're cycling through, and you're like feeding it and you're consistent with it. So it's either one of those things, but there's something in your life that you're not moving on to the next level quite yet, and not totally embracing your power of influence and your integrity, because there's something that needs to be mastered, something within yourself, typically around fear with the 8th house involved, that needs to be mastered. For some of you, this could involve finances and the way that you master your debt and money management. But typically all these things are much more deeply rooted than that. So money isn't really about money. Money is about our emotions. It's about our self-concept, our own worth, and how we live in accordance with our values and what we value. And so those things could be off, for example. So with the sun in the 2nd house, is trying to have you really hone in on how we can create that sense of confidence and self-worth. And with Mercury and Mars here, that could mean that you're setting certain boundaries. That could mean that you are saying no to certain things or certain people, drawing the line in the sand in some ways if you felt taken advantage of, or if there have been things that, again, that you're investing your time or energy into that are holding you back and confining you, that you're committed to the wrong thing in some way in your life, even if it's a small action that you're consistent with. That is when you're going to have to start, again, drawing those boundaries and being like, this is a no for me. And this is what I need to do to ensure that I don't get stuck and continue on in this cycle, this pattern. Mercury and Mars are really good at setting those boundaries and maybe even having conversations about that. And that could look like you're dating somebody and they're not very good with some aspect of the relationship or with money management, for example, and you share finances, and you need to set a boundary and you say, this isn't going to work for me. This is how we need to accomplish this goal together. And that means we have to stop doing X, Y, and Z, and I need you on my side. And so that there's a lot of that here, because there's definitely this juxtaposition of autonomy with the sun in the 7th house and interdependence with the moon in the 8th house. And there are things that involve relationships. Either it's your influence on somebody that's very strong, or it's that you are sometimes reliant on other people, or other people are reliant on you. And those things also play a role in how this kind of pans out. So it's not just you kind of needing to face some things. It's also you in regards to your connection with others as well, that needs to sift maybe through some limitations or repeating patterns that are keeping you stuck in some cycle, or that aren't allowing you to progress to the next level. And that could look like, oh, I don't want to marry this person until we resolve this recurring issue in our relationship, for example. And all this, again, stems from the self. So maybe there is that recurring pattern in your relationship, but then it comes from something that you are also contributing to in some fashion. So there's always some sense of responsibility here that we can take. And ultimately, making these decisions is going to help contribute to your long-term goals. So things feeling sustainable, to things feeling prideful, confident, like we know what we're investing in and we can get past like the middle that we're stuck in. I really feel like it's kind of like you're on a road trip and you start heading down and you get like halfway there, and then you exit the highway and you just keep like going in circles in this town, and you're like halfway to your destination, but you're not moving on because there's something that you need to address, either within yourself or within the relationship, or within your finances. There's something you need to address, and it's deeply psychological, and part of it is a little bit unconscious, but it needs healing and resolution so that you can finally get back on the highway and progress your life forward. I also pulled the Queen of Pentacles and Knight of Wands. So there definitely feels like this energy around finances that you have the possibility right now to manifest a lot more money and to become more strong and independent in your financial management. But you do need to be aware of things that feel like they are get rich quick schemes, or things that are quick and easy solutions. With Mars opposite Jupiter along the 8th and 2nd house axis, this is a little bit prone to impulsivity. Oh, I'm going to put all my money into these investments and that's going to make the money for me. And it's like, or I'm going to have this one conversation and then I expect things to be different, and things take time. And so there needs to be this level of confidence and adventure and inspiration and moving forward and momentum in our life that comes from these cards. But we don't want to be overzealous and over optimistic about things that we take that we make the wrong decisions, or that we don't anticipate the full breadth of time that things typically take for them to resolve themselves. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Libra. I would love to hear how that resonates for you down below. It feels like a very significant time in which you're stepping up into more of a leadership role, but you have to confront parts of the self in order to do that. So again, if you enjoyed this, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe. If you want a 2024 reading from me, I am doing a month-by-month forecast, which you can find in the description box down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next is Scorpio rising and sun. This Taurus eclipse is happening in your 7th house of relationships, conjunct Jupiter. And this eclipse has a lot to do with endings, letting go of things from the past, and walking away from grief and sorrow. And I think for many of you guys, there's something in your relationships that you guys are kind of stuck in a cycle with. And this was actually somewhat similar to the last reading with Libra. But some of you guys are needing to walk away from someone or something, but you guys are confused. You guys are stuck in your own head and you're not sure about what you want to do. I feel like you are kind of talking yourself out of it and then into it and then out of it and then into it with the 7 of Cups and 8 of Cups. You guys are not sure exactly what you want, but I think deep down you are resisting an inevitable end. And this is something that I'm seeing with the Empress, the 10 of Swords in reverse, and the Judgment in reverse. These cards, the 10 of Swords and the Judgment in reverse, are about ignoring something that you are called to do and resisting an end that needs to happen. And this doesn't mean that the relationship itself has to end, though for many of you that might be the case. This typically is indicating that something in a pattern within yourself needs to end, because that is what is contributing to some type of cycle or some type of stagnation or some type of ongoing issue in your relationships with others to occur. So there's something going on inside of you that is causing this to occur, and that's what needs to end. And for some of you, that could look like, I'm finally standing up for myself and setting a boundary, and I'm cutting this relationship off. That could look like, ending that pattern, and then you do have relationships change as a result, either for the better, or go away. And there's something here where I feel like you guys are coming into more of an understanding of yourself as a result of your connections with others. And the reason I say that is because the sun is in your 1st house right now, and Mercury and Mars are there opposite Jupiter. So I feel like the realizations about yourself and the actions that you want to take as a result of those realizations are coming from these growth edges and these growth opportunities that you're experiencing in your relationships with other people, where it's triggering something inside of you or mirroring something inside of you that you might not always want to see. And that is something that I saw with the shadow card, where it was talking about how the thing that you're not fully recognizing right now is that you are mirrored in others. And so there's a lot here, but I actually wanted to read this whole thing for you, but it's so many pages, I just don't think I could. But this has to do with separation. There's something in your psyche where you are separating yourself from the other person or from some other party. And that is good for your conscious. That's good for your identity in terms of not having to change, not having to face hard things, being able to protect oneself. But it's not actually good for your soul and your development. So if you say that person is bad because they have this quality and I'm good because I have this quality and we're separate, we can, again, keep ourselves safe and protected with that kind of consciousness. But if we start to see how actually the things outside of us mirror things inside of us, and that if we're getting triggered or upset by something, or if we see patterns in relationships, that maybe these things all have root within ourselves, then we can start to see how we're not actually so separate. And this actually goes further into explaining how we also have separate parts of the self. And when we don't unify our diverse personalities or parts of ourselves, then they can act separately, and some of them can be disowned. And so basically what happens often is when we disown a part of ourselves, let's say, for example, we grew up with a really angry father, and then we disowned our own anger, and then we get into a relationship with somebody and they are angry, we can see that part of ourselves in them and in this relationship, but we don't recognize it within ourselves because we have disowned it. And so we are almost encountering it through the other, but it's still within us. We still have a part of us that's angry. We just don't allow it to exist. We're not giving it the spaciousness to, have the time of day to talk to it, to examine it, to sit with it, because we've kind of delegated that to a part of ourselves as unworthy or something that we don't want to have, even though it's natural and innate part of us. So there's something going on here in relationships where they are going to act as a mirror. Circumstances now are going to reflect back to you, maybe your own darker desires. Maybe they'll reflect back to you your own feeling of belonging or exclusion. Maybe they'll mirror back to you how you treat yourself and talk to yourself. And, there's so many things, but there's something in regards to relationship patterns and things happening really mirroring what is going on inside of you. And there's something that needs to shift or end within that so that you can be free from this complete separation that you're having, where it's not really true. Like, you're not actually seeing the full self. With the sun in the first house, Mercury and Mars there, you are on a mission right now to see the full self through the other. So I hope this is making sense. I know it's kind of like meta and a little bit hard to follow. Venus, the ruler of this eclipse, is with Black Moon Lilith in the 11th house. So you might really see this come up in your friendships or your community relationships. And really just any relationships is possible, but those in particular will really start to show you where you have these different aspects of the self. They might say something or do something that brings it up within you. And it's like, it's not that you need to change yourself necessarily, but it's you need to change your relationship with that part of yourself. So instead of pushing it down or ignoring it or not seeing things, it's like we have to enter into a relationship with that part of ourselves. So let's say, for example, our friend calls us out on, or maybe they say something about someone being selfish, and then we are like, oh, wait, maybe I have parts of me that are selfish. And then instead of saying that doesn't exist, you sit with it and, okay, I think you're getting what I'm saying. But I think some of you, relationships as a result of the self-discovery and owning all parts of ourselves, I actually think some relationships will not work anymore, because sometimes when we're fragmented and we're only living out parts of our true self, if we come into our whole essence and we maybe feel more empowered, or we grow in different ways, or we start to be more accepting of ourselves, even of our shadows, maybe that triggers other people. Maybe other people aren't ready for us to change or ready for us to grow, and then they fall away as a result. So there's something that needs to end, that you need to walk away from, that feels inevitable. And that could be a relationship or something in regards to your relationship with yourself. But really important period of time for you guys right now. I asked the universe what you get as a result of this, and I got the luck card. So I really feel like if you're willing to walk away, if you're willing to make this change or let something go in some way, you are actually going to attract much more luck into your life. So you might feel blocked, you might feel stuck from really achieving some of these bigger goals or aspirations or desires or next level of things, until you make these decisions to walk away from whatever this is. And then I think more things will flow into your life and will just honestly feel a lot easier. So that is what I'm saying for you, Scorpio. I'd love to hear what you think about this. Please don't forget to comment down below if it resonates. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, subscribe and share with your friends. And if you want a 2024 forecast, don't forget to check that out in the description box down below. I go through month by month what you can expect on a live call. So I hope to see you guys there, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye. All right, I'm next to a Sagittarius rising and sun. This Taurus eclipse is happening in your 6th house conjunct Jupiter. This is an area related to the way that we occupy our days, our work, our routines, our schedules, our responsibilities, the things that we have to accomplish in a day, and how we organize our time and energy to accomplish those things. With an eclipse here, there's something in regards to this area of your life that is not truly going to lead you to the results that you desire. And this could have to deal with the way that you manage your health as well, since the 6th house is highly associated with health. Jupiter wants us to expand. It wants us to up level, achieve something bigger and something new for us. But I'm getting this really strong message that you guys have been embodying a little bit too much Jupiter, because you are Jupiter ruled, and right now Jupiter is opposite Mars, and this makes Jupiter a little bit too like hasty and hopeful and like wanting to jump straight into things and not slowing down and considering how things actually can be achieved. And so one of the first cards that I pulled was this card of what we're not seeing in the scenario. And for you, what you're not seeing is that you're not seeing the reality of a situation, or you're denying maybe the negative of a situation, or just the reality by being blindly optimistic. And this is an extremely common Sagittarius quality. You guys will jump into things at 1,000 times light speed. You'll take on way too much. And this is no judgment because I have this quality too. But you'll take on way too much and you think like, oh, I can do all of this and I do all this in this time. And it's just not going to happen. And one of the things that I'm seeing for you guys is this kind of scattered energy. And the ruler of this eclipse, Venus, is with Black Moon Lilith in our 10th house, in your 10th house. So there's something here where you guys are trying to, the universe is trying to show you the shadowy elements of your objectives and your goals. There's something in here where you might be like too ambitious. You might have too many goals. And it's like you're not there. I think that you're not, there's a need to hone it in and focus the energy here. And this is kind of a prevalent message in general, but one of the things that I'm seeing is that you guys have the Knight of Pentacles, Five of Wands, and Page of Wands. So these energies together, the Knight of Pentacles and Five of Wands, show me that you are showing up consistently and you're dedicated to stuff, but you have competing desires. So the problem here is, and this is where the shadows around your goals come in, you might have a goal to do this, and then you might have a goal to dedicate your time and energy to this. And these things are not necessarily working together. They are in competition. They take away from each other. They are hard to sustain together. And on top of that, I feel like with this Page of Wands card, you might have a lot of different ideas and inspirations come through about what else you could do. You could feel like you want to be free. You want to be free to change your mind, to follow your adventure, to follow your happy. And it could feel like, yes, I want to do that thing. Like I want to follow where the energy leads me. The problem with this is that, again, it's conflicting with maybe some of these desires and some of these things that you're doing are conflicting with like your true long-term goals and your true values. And you're having even more things crop up here and there as like maybe new ideas along the way, or you just want to feel like a free spirit. And so because of that, you don't want to commit to one thing. So there's this like repulsion to being on a specific track because it feels like, oh, but I feel limited. I don't feel free. I feel confined. And so that is what you're seeing here with this blind optimism card and this eclipse being the 6th house. You're not fully aware of like actually how much space is in your day and how much energy you have and how much time and resources you have to complete these goals. And if you truly want to achieve something, you can't just like hope that you're going to achieve it and plan on achieving it when you have things that are competing and the new ideas and you don't want to commit to one thing. You know what I'm saying here? So I think that you guys are just needing to focus on a specific direction to get the result that you're wanting. And that is what I see for you coming up. But in order to do that, you really have to confront that fear of loss. With the sun in the 12th house, Mercury and Mars there, it can feel really scary to decide that we're going to identify in a particular way. This is who I am. This is what I do. And it doesn't have to be concrete. And that I think is really helpful, is that it can always adapt and it can be even abstract. But we're having a particular mission that guides us and very strong core values around what we want and who we are and what we have the gift of, so that we can optimize our life and our time to best suit that, rather than doing many things that are maybe not wholly suited to us. So with the sun on 12th, we have to confront the loss of maybe I'm not choosing to go down this path anymore. Maybe I'm honing my focus. Maybe I'm also just confronting like my own, self-sabotaging behaviors of being super scattered or, wanting to rebel and not feel limited, but actually having some kind of structure or focus doesn't have to be limiting. So there's a lot that you're kind of needing to unravel and unwind that has led you to this current predicament. And Venus and Black Moon Lilith in the 10th house is going to help you really understand like how maybe your desire for a free spirit and rebelliousness and all that has sometimes led you to actually living not 100% in alignment because you're not actually achieving some of the goals that you'd want. And that is important for you as a person. Or you're not putting the energy and attention into the areas that are super, super important for you because there are other things pulling on your time and your attention. And so you're becoming aware of that. I see you having this new beginning where you're coming into your strong, stable leadership energy with this Fool and the King of Wands. You're having some kind of reset in your life where I think you're learning how to manage your energy differently at work or in your day-to-day life so that you are on track. You have your vision. You are taking a step there at a time, but you're still feeling like inspired and excited and this zest for life. It's not that you are trapped. Like you really are feeling very expansive, but you're just also specific at the same time. So I feel like you're just having this vision that's leading you, and that vision might be something new with this Fool card, or it might be a reset to where you're kind of combining different elements of your life so that you feel more satisfied. But there's something here where you're like recommitting to something or committing to it for the first time and deciding to focus on that. I also pulled the Elk card, which has to do with being stable, strong, living according to our values. This is a masculine principle. So you guys are needing to draw in more of the masculine principle, which is why Mars is opposite your planet Jupiter. It's saying we need more of this. We need more of that, that schedule, that consistency, that drive. And you guys have lots of drive, but that focus of the drive of knowing exactly where you're going is a very Mars thing. Mars is on a mission. It's a warrior. It knows who it's battling, what time, with how many people, how it's going to get there, yada, yada, yada. So you guys are coming into this kind of stronger sense of self that will help you actually achieve some of these bigger long-term goals. So that is what I'm seeing for you. You're learning how to manage your time and your energy, your day-to-day basis to get to those goals, become clear, focused, and live more in accordance with your values. If this resonates with you, I would love to hear down below in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you want a 2024 forecast, I'm going to be breaking it down month by month and the energies and even some animal cards, obviously your astrology transits. If you're interested in having a live call with me like that, I will link my product down below. And if not, then I hope you have a great day and I'll talk to you later. Bye. All right, I'm next to have Capricorn, Sun, and Rising. This Taurus eclipse is happening in your 5th house conjunct Jupiter. And I feel like you guys are about to be entering into a stage of a lot more abundance and expansion. The 5th house is one of the most positive houses. It's a house of joy. Jupiter is with the moon in this 5th house. So it's really calling you towards this feeling of happiness, greatness, abundance, feeling also if you have children that you are having an even better relationship with your children or with your own creative desires. So there's something here that feels like it's flourishing and really, really has a potential to manifest into so many things that you want. I see here the Magician, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Empress. So you guys are coming into a phase of being very magnetic in terms of your manifestations. If you have desires, if you have goals, if you have wishes, you can just feel into them and start attracting them right now. You already have the tools. You already have the resources. You don't really need to do much more. You don't need to prepare or work super hard. Yes, manage the things that you have well and take care of your things that you have, but it really seems like there's a flow coming towards you and that this is a time of enhancement and growth and abundance, like I mentioned. But I am seeing that there are other things happening in your life that need to be taken care of for this to be the full spectrum of positive energy that you can possibly have. And one of the things that I think is really strong coming in here is your own belief system. And that's because Venus, the ruler of this eclipse, is in your ninth house in Virgo with Black Moon Lilith. And there's something about this with Black Moon Lilith where we're really seeing how we have shadows in our beliefs. There are things that you are committed to thinking are true that are not. They are a filter. And I'm really seeing this with this card here that's quite literally talking about having a filter. So there's some kind of viewpoint or lens through which you're viewing life that is making that reality so real for you, but it's just not true. And one of the examples it's talking about in the book is if somebody as a child got bit by a dog, they can see dogs then as a threat and they can grow up their whole life afraid of dogs, and that's their filter. But then somebody else has grown up with dogs and has loved dogs and has had a great experience, and they have a totally different filter. So their perceptions of the same situation are totally different. And that is what's happening here for you guys. And I think that this is very much related to your own sense of like worth and your own gifts and your own like feeling like you have everything that you need and that you're good enough and that you are magnetic and that you can attract what you want and life can be easy and life can be pleasurable and you don't have to work super hard and it can flow and be creative. Like there's something around that in particular where your beliefs are limiting you. And I think it's causing you to feel really depleted with this other card, which is talking about literally being depleted. And I'm seeing so much energy here with the earthworm, the crocodile, the lizard, the cleansing card that has to deal with you slowing things down, simplifying things, maybe going back to the basics, rooting yourself in the earth, cleansing things in your body or your environment, making sure that you have equal amount of time, you know, being productive as being relaxed and just being a person. There's something here where I feel like you guys are needing to reprogram your belief around work itself and effort and how life can feel easier than it actually feels right now. And you have to shed some things in order to do that. You have to, with the lizard and the cleansing card, you have to shed your perspective. You have to shed your assumptions. You have to shed your filter and start to expect and assume different things. So what if life were easy and fun and creative and flowed and didn't feel like an uphill battle, didn't feel like I'm behind or that I have to work so hard to get ahead and that life is harder on me or that I'm going through a period of lack, whatever those thoughts are. How do we shed those thoughts? And there may also be thoughts in particular about your friendships and your community and your sense of belonging that also are impacting your feeling of abundance and flow. You might feel like that is an area of stress for you because Mercury and Mars are together in your 11th house with the sun, and it's just having an extra emphasis on who are my friends, where am I going in life, what's my life direction, what's my community, my sense of belonging here, and are these areas of my life up to par? And if they feel like they're not, then you could get, again, a lot of anxiety. And I feel like what you need to do with this earthworm card is simplify things, go back to the basics of things. This is a Taurus eclipse, which has to deal with survival and foundations and rootedness. And there's something about you that I feel like it just needs like really simple things to feel rooted again. Like you don't need to do all these things and make all these friends and have all these goals. Like, not that those things aren't going to be there and that they won't come to you, but I think they'll come quite naturally if you can just go back to the basics, which could be as simple as following your breath, going on a walk and looking at the trees. If you have an intuitive feeling to do something, following that. If you want to take a bath and rest, listening to your body. There's something here where it's like you just need to tune in to yourself and what is trying to be communicated through you or to you through spirit of your sensations, your physical body, like all the things that are very material. They're communicating to you about what it is that you need to do to just take one step at a time. And that will help you understand, just by following those things, you will naturally kind of come up on your goals. You will naturally kind of find your friends because you're following your instinct one step at a time and listening to yourself. And I think that's not normally my recommendation, especially with Sun 11th house. Normally we like have a vision and we're headed towards it and da da da. And it's like, I don't think that as a Capricorn rising that serves you right now, because you guys are so good at planning and so good at being work oriented that you can sometimes funnel so much energy into the future or to what's not here yet that it can put a lot of stress on the body and on the mind. And so I feel like just slowing it down and taking it back to the basics and moving with intention, savoring the current experiences, listening to the body, your cues around you, nature, is going to be very, very helpful, because you're going to start to see that when you listen to yourself and when you slow things down a little bit and you don't have so many expectations or thoughts about everything in the future, then you'll see that actually the abundance is right there. You'll have the ideas pop up, you'll listen to it, and it just flows into your life with ease. And it's like everything comes to you without having to be so in control of it. And I think that's super important here with Jupiter opposite Mars. Our action right now is spirited by the universe. It's not coming from within us alone. And I think sometimes Capricorn can feel like they can sometimes forget to put down their woes on the universe and ask the universe to just take care of it. Pisces tend to be really good at that. Capricorn sometimes can get really caught up in their own personal responsibility and duty in the situation, which can be helpful, but at other times can be detrimental. And I think in this case, there is autonomy and there is agency, and we are supposed to be taking care of things because this is a Taurus eclipse. But because Jupiter is with Mars here, is opposite Mars, the ruler of the North Node, it's all coming from spirit. So it's not something that we have to completely derive from our own inner resources and know where we're going and plan everything ahead. So it's almost like trusting the flow of life and energy, taking things one step at a time, regenerating yourself, allowing yourself to pause and breathe. And if it feels like, oh my God, like I'm going to get behind, that's a filter that you need to release, because it's depleting you and it's not healthy and it's not true either. So that's kind of the energy of what I'm seeing for you. I hope that's helpful for you, Capricorn. If so, please feel free to comment down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you want a 2024 forecast, I'm going to go through each month of the energies. Astrologically, I'm going to pull some animal cards as well to guide you, and that will be a live call. So if you want that, I will link that in my description box down below, and I hope to see you there. Bye. All right, I'm next to have Aquarius, Sun, and Rising. For you guys, this full moon in Taurus eclipse, lunar eclipse, is happening in your 4th house with Jupiter there. And it's opposite the Sun, of course, in your 10th house, along with Mercury and Mars there. So I feel like you guys, there's kind of a lot of different messages going on here. One of them being with the moon in the 4th house and with Jupiter here, I feel like you guys are trying to come into a phase of being a little bit more optimistic, a little bit more hopeful and expansive in terms of your heart, feeling like, okay, I'm good. I feel good about myself and where I am in life. I feel good about, like who I am as a person and everything. Just feeling more expansive and joyful. And what is stopping you from that could be that there are some things that you still need to process and some things that you might even still need to let go of. I think that you guys are needing to make some kind of decision or like move through a transition in your life right now. But there's almost something there's something in that's preventing you from doing that. Okay, so let me explain myself. So the ruler of this moon is Venus, and this is in the 8th house conjunct Black Moon Lilith. Wherever Venus is going to show us where we're experiencing where we have some shadows that are holding us back from reaching this full potential, this full goal. For you, some of these shadows are coming in the way of your wounds, some things from the past, crises, painful experiences that you've gone through that do at times lead you to feeling insecure, which takes away from this potential with the moon and Jupiter in the 4th of feeling expansive, of feeling positive, of feeling like you're growing and like you're excited about life. There's these things from the past that kind of gnaw at you and that gets stuck in your head. And there might be anger or something that you feel very passionate about, or things that you felt wronged about that are preventing you from fully moving through this transition with the stimulation transition card. It's like you might be holding on to resentment. You might be holding on to frustration. You might be holding on to these emotions that are quite prickly. With this transition card, it's like you're trying to move through it, but it's almost like you need to decide how you feel about something, or commit to a certain way of thinking about something, or decide to just stop something, or there's something that you need to commit to. Either something you need to commit to not being a part of anymore. With the Two of Swords and the Ten of Swords in reverse, it's like something's got to give, something's got to end, but you're resisting it. You're kind of like back and forth in your own head about whether you should end it fully or not, or whether you should go in this direction or not. And there's something where you just need to like let it down, like set it down, stop picking up and looking at it, stop thinking about it, just set it down and walk away type of situation. And with this card as well, where this talks about your filter, there's something that you're looking at through kind of disturbed eyes, where you're not seeing the situation totally clearly. You are seeing it from your perspective only. And I feel like it's getting you caught up in this loop, and that could be contributing to this frustration. The moon in the fourth house is trying to dig up stuff from the past to like let it go so that you can feel more balanced and hopeful and optimistic and buoyant within yourself. But if you are attached to a certain perspective or narrative that's going around in your head, that is going to prevent you from moving forward. With the sun in the 10th house, there's goals that you're meant to be achieving. There's work that you're meant to be focusing on, things that you're meant to be doing to progress through life. And with Mercury and Mars here, you might need to feel like you stand up for yourself in terms of these goals. But it's almost like you need to first process what is happening with you with this Oyster card. Filter the difficult experiences and clean them out so that you can come to the situation with a lot more clarity. Because I just feel like there's some need for justice or balance, but I feel like you're very triggered, or you're emotional, or you're angry, and it's like your head isn't screwed on straight. You're like wavering. I don't know. I feel like I'm not even explaining this totally clearly. And I think part of the reason is because I think there's a lot going on within you that is kind of conflicting, or back and forth, or this and that, and unresolved. And I think it's making it hard for you to feel like you know what you want and how to state that clearly. But with this Justice and the King of Pentacles, and then Mercury and Mars in the 10th house, I do feel like you guys need some kind of justice, some kind of fairness to come to you, to have some kind of resolution of something, especially if it's work related, something where you feel like you're getting your due that you've put into things before, like you're getting things back that are fair because of the effort that you've put in prior. But you don't want to approach the situation with frustration, anger, confusion. It's like you need to get really clear and process things on your own, and then you can ask for this fairness, or then you can seek what you're like, put effort into your goals and your desires, and you'll notice that they start to pay off for you because you are coming from this kind of clear place. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Aquarius. If that resonates, I would love to hear down below. That seemed like a complicated situation. I think it fits probably a lot of various situations. So I'm curious what that is for you, and I'd love to hear in your comments. Don't forget to also like and subscribe and share with your friends. And if you want a reading from me, I am doing a 2024 forecast, and I will go through month by month all of the energies, and that is a live reading I will link down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, and last but not least, we have Pisces rising and sun. This Taurus lunar eclipse is happening in your 3rd house with the sun in the 9th house. So I already started this video, but I messed up with my wire. So I wanted to start over and talk about how this eclipse in the 3rd house is very reactionary. It's very much like what our thoughts and mind are doing as we process things in the moment. Because Jupiter is with this moon in this eclipse, it's wanting us to zoom out and get a bigger perspective about your reactions to things. And this is really coming through in our relationship sector because the ruler of this eclipse, Venus, is with Black Moon Lilith in the 7th house. And it doesn't have to be your relationships only, but for most people, it's going to be relationships or something related to partnership, contracts, and business work. But something where you are working closely with another individual or entity. And Venus and Black Moon Lilith are showing where we have shadows, where we have fears. And this is really coming up in that connection and these relationship dynamics. Your shadows and your fears could be leading to desperate reactions. And I say that because I pulled this card. I pulled two sigils, which have, one of them have to deal with desperation and the other is incompatibility. So I'm really getting the sense that somebody is grasping and trying to make something work that maybe just doesn't work. And when they're talking about desperation in this book, they were talking about how it is an emotion stemming from despair of feeling like we are really hopeless and powerless about something in our lives. And in this case, maybe about the loss of something in our lives. And so there can be this feeling of powerlessness where we're scared we're going to lose this person that we love or this job or this contract. And so we start becoming grabby and desperate and wanting the thing to work. But with this other card being incompatibility, there's something very clearly not right about this connection or about this role that is actually making the desperation, it's just never going to work. Like the desperation isn't going to get you anywhere. That feeling of trying everything, of reacting, of showing up, of saying things to try to make things better. And again, the reactivity of like, this happens, I'm going to show up here. This happens, I'm going to have this conversation about that. And it's like trying to resolve all these things, but there's an inherent incompatibility that's happening here where you and this situation or you and this person or you and this thing are not working. And it's like you're desperately fighting to make something work that isn't working. And with this eclipse being in the third house, it's trying to help you zoom out and get the bigger perspective of not just reacting and not trying to fix and patch and just be present in the moment, but zoom out of your life and ask yourself, is this what the next 10 years are going to be like? Is this really my truth? Is this really my person? Is this really my situation? Is this really my job? Like, is this right for me? And if I feel like I have to keep trying, if I have to keep forcing or fixing, there's something here where it's trying to tell you it's not right for you. And there is something about this that's really like a cyclical pattern with the snake card. This is not something new. I feel like this is something you guys have been in before, either in relationships or with jobs or whatever this is talking about. It's like you guys have been here before and you're wound up back here again. And I think the important thing is to do the processing around this so that you don't end up in the same cycle again. And this is what eclipses do. They help us break cycles and patterns. And a Taurus eclipse in particular is trying to align us with our core values, what is super important to us as a person. And if there are things that are off with those core values, we leave. We disengage. We realize it's out of alignment with us, and we hold strong with the strength card. We hold strong in our sense of self. And I saw a heart when I looked at this celery. So there's something here with your heart. We listen to our heart. If our heart is hurting, if our heart feels like this is too hard, or this feels like a remembrance of an old cycle, that is an indication to leave. And so there's something here where I feel like you guys are coming more into your own strength, your own essence, your own values within your mind and your communication. And you're trying to tell yourself like the bigger meaning and purpose of this, the light at the end of this tunnel, the way to get out of this, the way to leave the situation and resolve this feeling that you're having of maybe being stuck or in a battle. And I feel like you guys have been really, really indecisive. But what you're needing is to stand in your own. With this King of Pentacles, you need to stand in your own. Again, this is what I value. This is what I want. This is what I want to feel and experience. And having control over yourself as well. And recognizing when you're in control of yourself, if the external environment doesn't match with who you are strong and stable on the inside, then it's time for that thing to go and not you change. And I feel like you have been kind of like shaken up with this Two of Swords. Like you are kind of in this phase of not knowing for yourself, like being indecisive about yourself and your path, when in reality, it's the thing outside of you that's wrong, and it shouldn't make you question your decisions. in terms of like your values and like, oh, should I compromise on this? No, there is no compromise. I'm burping. I feel like that's something to do with channeling. But there's something very strong here where it's like not letting things waver who you are. Like, this is who you are. This is what you need. This is what you value. This is what you want. If it doesn't align, it doesn't align. Don't force it. And the Two of Swords, I feel like you've been questioning yourself as a way to force this to fit. And with the Four of Pentacles, you're really holding yourself back. You are the King of Pentacles, but you are acting like the Four of Pentacles when you're in the indecisive nature. And you're like, oh, I don't know. You're giving your power away. You are feeling powerless when you're not. And that's that desperate energy of I feel powerless because I don't want to lose this thing. And you're trying to preserve, you're trying to hold on, you're trying to protect yourself and protect this thing. But in reality, it's actually digging away at you, and it's actually limiting you, and it's actually hurting you. And with the sun in the ninth house, it wants you to reach for more. With Jupiter on the moon, it wants you to reach for more. There's bigger, there's better. This is just a stepping stone on that path. And with Mercury and Mars also with this eclipse, and with the sun on this eclipse, you might have to have a difficult conversation. You might have to say something is a no and cut something or someone away or off. And we don't want to be impulsive or rush it or, you know, not go about it properly. With Jupiter opposite Mars, sometimes we can do that. But at the same time, we also don't want to like put ourselves aside and ignore the truth. This is what this is. This is about the truth. And I feel like you guys are coming to an understanding of what your truth is, what your values are, and you're feeling more optimistic once you actually make that decision. I think you're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're going to be like, that is where I'm going. It might be darkness all around me, but I see the light ahead, and that's where I'm headed, and that's why I'm making this decision right now. So it feels like a very kind of heavy and strong message for you. I think you guys have had the strongest message all day. So I hope that this resonates. It's a really big time. I think it can be confusing, but ultimately the confusion is a desire to want to hold on to something that you're supposed to release. It's not actually confusion. It's just a denial of your truth and your heart. So that's what I see for you, Pisces. I love you guys so much. I really hope you guys have the best transition through this time. I know this could be a little bit harder if it's uncomfortable for you. Please don't forget to comment down below if it resonates. I'd love to hear how. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends. And if you want a 2024 forecast, I'm doing a month-by-month breakdown on a live call with me, and I will link that in the description box down below. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye.